This video is going to cover the three West African civilizations of Ghana, Mali, and Songhai. This is a continuation of the African kingdoms notes that we covered using information about Axum and Zimbabwe. So the West African kingdom of Ghana is located along the Niger River, which is one of the rivers that's on your map, but if I sort of loosely draw it, it's going to come around sort of this way. So it began along the Niger, and it was named by the Muslims for the word chief. So Ghana is an Arabic translation of the word chief. They are famous for mining gold in the woodlands south of the Sahara. So if you remember again back from your map that the Sahara Desert is along the top portion, northern Africa, separating sort of the northern Africa region from the rest of Africa. So they would have mined gold in the southern section. They also mine salt. We've talked about this a little bit. Salt is a mineral that comes out of the ground. It's a rock that's mined just like every other rock is mined. And they sent salt to Ghana and exchanged it for gold. They also provided protection for anyone traveling along the trans-Saharan trade routes who were going to be merchants. They did tax the traders, they taxed the merchants in order to make extra money, and that their government maintained fairness within their process in order to make sure that everyone was getting solid deals on both directions. Only the king was allowed to own gold in Ghana, which meant that the gold prices stayed very, very high. You could melt down that gold and turn it into jewelry, and those sorts of things could be sold, but only the king was allowed to have the actual nuggets. So in a gold mine, all of the gold mined from the ground was given then as property to the king, who made a lot of money off of it. They're very heavily Muslim. They were originally an animist culture, which we've talked about when we talked about Axum, but along the trans-Saharan trade routes, which again would have come through the Sahara from the Middle East and also through to the Mediterranean Sea. Those are wonderful drawings of the trade routes, if you notice. When they traded along those trade routes, you had a lot of cultural diffusion. This is where you're going to have the numeral system spread, and you're going to have Arabic as a language spread. Most importantly, you're going to have Islam as a religion spread. The next group you need to know about is Mali. Mali is actually a country in South Africa today, rather than the Songhai, which are going to come later. Ghana is also a country in Africa today. They overthrow their predecessors, and Sundiata is the emperor in charge of that, who extends the gold and salt trade. He extends farming and agricultural methods, and he also makes the empire much larger. If I go back for just a second, you can see on this map that Mali is the gold color, and it is significantly larger than the Ghana of the 11th century, so 300 years later, and they are much, much larger. So Sundiata is responsible for making it a very, very big culture. Mansa Musa is the most famous ruler of the Mali Empire. He's a 14th century ruler. Super strong military. He was very savvy. He was very fair, but he was also very, very effective. He is famous for building mosques in the city of Timbuktu. Now, I'm going to get you guys, just a second, some pictures of Timbuktu so you can see what that looks like. So I just did a quick Google search of Timbuktu, and this shows you exactly what these cities look like. They're made of essentially mud and sticks. But it's a very prominent city. It's a very beautiful city in the ancient world. And these are obviously modern countries. And oh, look, there's military generals. So we'll stop sort of scrolling through, because who knows what's going to come up on the Google search. But as you can see, it's very peaceful looking, calm and still, with the exception of obviously the picture with the guys with the guns. But you also have, like this bottom left picture, you have someone who's reading. It's a holy city that is under the Mali Empire when it was created. So again, those mosques, those Muslim worship houses, were built in Timbuktu after Mansa Musa took the Hajj, the pilgrimage, to Mecca. The very last empire is the Songhai. The Songhai arises a little bit further inland from Mali. I mean, if you think back to this map, I'll go back to it one more time. This map shows you that Mali actually had a coastline, and it goes only really so far inland as Gao. But the Songhai, the sort of coral-colored outline, extends in a smaller portion along the Atlantic coast, but a much, much larger portion into the Sahara. Oops. So, Sunni Ali is the most famous leader of West African Kingdom of Songhai. He conquers Timbuktu, and this is a cartoon depiction of Timbuktu. His son then overthrows him, some sort of son he has. You probably would have gotten the empire at his feet when his father died, but he's, I guess, a little impatient. He's a very, very devout Muslim, and he spreads Islam even further throughout the empire than Mansa Musa did. He's actually a really, really good governor. When the Moroccans, who are on the Mediterranean coast and the Atlantic coast, very, very north, come invading, they actually conquer the Songhai Empire, which ends all West African empires that had been in power for over 1,000 years at that point. So the Moroccans take a stand and end all of the empires there.